a city never sleeps. The magic in the air so deep. Future mirrors of a...
Welcome to another episode of the Icons Edit. I'm here with Jules Skyler, my friend from TikTok. We have had each other for years on social media because Jules is a content creator and set costumer, and we've been kind of following each other and fangirling for years on our content. Because she's here and because we're both costumers and big into our iconic TV shows, we thought we'd talk about costume design in TV. 90s, 2000s, and even some like more recent stuff as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So thank you for being here, first of all.
Thank you.
All the way from
me.
Chicago.
So excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you on finally. I know, because we do such similar content and we talk about such similar things. We're so interested in that specific era, aren't we? Like, what would you say is your golden era for costume design and fashion?
It's so hard to say. I think like the 90s, but that's just like, it has a special place in my heart. Just growing up watching it and being really inspired by things that I saw growing up, which ultimately led me to where I am today. And for me personally, like I love the early 2000s, but that is just because I was like really getting into my love of fashion in that time period. And I would like really experiment with stuff. And I thought that fashion was so fun. And even like the late 90s into the early 2000s, costume design was so fun to look at.
Exactly.
And costume and fashion, and they both obviously like impact each other. I think costume design impacts fashion so much, and we don't talk about it enough.
Massively.
But I mean, I'll make a lot of videos where I'm talking about costumes or things of the past where I get into the 2000s. And I know some of the stuff is like a little bit campy or cheesy or over the top. But in recent years, because we've moved into such like minimalism, I feel like when I see that stuff, it's just eye candy. It's like refreshing for me.
It really is, isn't it?
Color and just interesting design, and this stuff is definitely coming back around, which is really exciting. And I think it's obviously like the pendulum swing. Like we had so much of like the nude and beige and just boring and
We won't go out into
and it's like there's not and it's like I love minimalism. Like I also love minimalism.
And I dress like in minimalism, honestly.
Yeah.
But when I'm looking at TV and film and pop music videos and performances, I want to see maximalism.
Definitely with a pop music performance, you want to see maximalism, and you want to see like give me something to look at, give me something fun.
I know, because whenever I think about you, I think a lot about Britney. Yes, I know we just so much Britney content, and that really is like the epitome of what we're talking about here. And she also was dressed by David Dalrymple,
100%.
And David, of course, worked with Patricia Field on House of Field. Did quite a few of the costumes in Sex and the City. Yeah. And he did so many of those incredible Britney outfits on stage. Definitely. And it's like, we don't forget them. Do you remember the nude
100%.
rhinestone?
How could you forget?
Like she's wearing nothing, but she's wearing something. What is it? And it's like,
that was earth shattering.
Yeah.
Like when I talked about it, to plug my series, Britney Slick Book, I've been going through every Britney Spears iconic look in chronological order, and we break down each look. And when I got to that one, the comments were just amazing because people, and I think it's also interesting for younger people, like they can look at that and be like, that's cool. But I can also see how if you're looking at it from 2026, you're like, what's the big deal? And when I'm explaining it, I'm like, you guys, you have to understand this, like blew our mind. Like
Absolutely.
She ripped her suit off and she was wearing, and it shook the world. And the next day it was all people could talk about. Like, what was she wearing? Like, was she naked? Was she, and ultimately like, she's actually like pretty covered up.
yeah.
And that part is kind of funny to look back on.
Right.
And to try to explain like what a controversy it was when she wore that.
It's funny because I know we're not going to really talk about Britney, but I always thought it was funny how she always wore such chunky, ugly shoes with some of her outfits. And I was like, beautiful, beautiful. What? like, and I know it was very much the era.
time. Oh my
Like,
gosh,
of course,
yes.
it was the 90s, early 2000s, those chunky black round toe boot things. But you're
Oh my God,
you know,
yeah.
how in like Oops, I Did It Again, and she's got the
Yes.
PVC catsuit on, and then she's got those ugly chunky boots
Yes.
on, and I'm like, that's ruining my vibe.
The only thing I'll say about that is so funny that we often discuss in the lookbook is like people who are really hardcore fans. We're always like, give her a flat shoe because like she just dances different.
Absolutely.
And then when we got into later years, she was always in a heel.
Right.
And she could do it and she
Yeah.
could nail it, but you could always tell she was like so much more comfortable when she was in a flat shoe.
And you know, she's a hardcore dancer, so yeah,
100%.
I know that was definitely part of why.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what it was like?
Yes.
Right,
Yes.
I'm not getting that. Like when we think about Sex and the City, which we're gonna of course talk about, you know, the shoes were always part of the outfit. But I think with someone like Britney, because it was like function as well.
Function.
It wasn't always like a whole look. When we take like Carrie Bradshaw, for example, every element of the outfit is thought about, you know, from the earrings to the shoes, to the bag, to the gloves, sometimes to socks, and God knows, all sorts of things.
Yes.
It was like so many pieces together, but with something like a Britney, it was just like one statement piece, and that's all basic.
Because like when she's wearing the nude suit, I'm not looking at the shoe.
No, I do not look at anything else really. There's no accessorize it, which is why it's so interesting. But I just wanted to touch on that because I was thinking about Britney, because I always watch your lookbook and I was always like, especially because David was so heavily involved with Britney's costume.
I loved when I started researching all of that stuff. There was a lot that I didn't know who made what.
Yeah.
And I loved finding out how integrated Sex and the City was with her costumes.
Yeah.
And then it made sense when I would look at them. And I always think about the fact that I started watching Sex and the City because Britney would always say she loved it in interviews.
Really? That's what
That was her
what
favorite show. Oh my gosh. And I was like watching Sex and the City at kind of an inappropriate age. Like I was 16, 17.
Yeah.
And I always tell the story, like I used to have to go sneak to watch it in my house because like I wasn't allowed to watch it because it was Sex and the City. No one knew like it, and yes, it was inappropriate for me to be watching, but I would be like, and I feel like I remember when my mom found out I was watching it and it was like an issue. It was like an issue. And I was very much like, no, but you don't understand. I'm watching for the clothes. And I really meant it with my whole heart.
Me too. I don't even remember bothering about the sex stuff. I was just always like the same age as you. And I remember being like, I'm not even like scandalized by this. I'm just looking at what she's wearing.
Yes.
And the way she acted and the way she walked and the way she strutted. Those were the things that got for me. It was her, Carrie Bradshaw. It's never the sex and stuff.
No.
Like, and I think later in life I watched it, was like, that was kind of scandalous.
Oh, totally scandalous. But like, I was watching it because I always am describing to, when you think about the time period in which we were watching, it was like 2002, 2003. And me living in the Midwest, it's like, where am I getting fashion influence?
Right.
Because like we didn't have the internet wasn't what we had. The internet, it wasn't what it is today. We didn't have Instagram. We didn't have all those things. So we weren't seeing current fashion. So it was like I would be holding my breath to see what is Carrie wearing in this episode. And then like, how can I take elements of that and incorporate it into like my Midwestern life and you know, my budget as a teenager.
Yeah, see, that's really important because I was going to ask you about how you feel like costume design affects the general population. You know, how are we affected directly by costume design? Because people don't often, unless you're in costume design or you're in fashion, do you realize how heavy you're being influenced? And so like you just pinpointed like how important costume design was.
Yes, and I could go on and on about Sex and the City and its impact on my life. Truly, that's why I ended up working in costumes, is because I watched Sex and the City.
Me too.
It's such a huge influence.
It definitely was.
I used to like on Friday nights when I had nothing to do when I was in high school, I would go like rent, you know, the one DVD that had like 5 episodes on it.
Right.
Because that's the only way I could get it. And I would watch it just to like be inspired by the clothes. And like Patricia Fields is everything to me because she is why I have the career. She, like, my passion for clothes just like really came alive in those years. And I was trying to be Carrie Bradshaw in the way that I could be Carrie Bradshaw as like an 18-year-old in the suburbs of Chicago.
Yeah.
Which was also really funny too, because like we didn't have access to clothes the way that we do now. Like you couldn't just Google something and order it.
Of
It just
course,
didn't work like
it really
that.
wasn't like that. No.
No, so I'd be like at the mall at like Forever 21. I remember so specifically that when she wore the juicy terry cloth with green dress, I wanted it more than anything in the world. And I just like couldn't afford it. I couldn't get my hands on it. And that's when I started, like I took a sewing machine and I was like,
Wow.
I tried to make it the best that I could. It didn't really go well. But I tried to make it, and then I waited a little bit, and then Forever 21 had like a white one.
I bought the green one from Forever
Oh my
21.
God,
That's what
stop.
I knew you were gonna say that.
That's
I
so
got the
funny.
because I was except me and you. It was like listening to myself because I was the same.
Yeah.
I got that, and I remember being obsessed and not being able to afford the juicy one.
Yeah.
Just like it's that seemed inaccessible. I mean, juicy now it doesn't seem inaccessible.
Well,
at all.
because of what they did.
Right, but and the time I remember being like, oh God, I need that dress. Going into Forever 21. Actually, not. I didn't even go in there. I wasn't even in America then. I remember having to get it online,
Order
from
it.
eBay, I think.
Yeah.
Because like again, you couldn't even order from America then and get it sent to England. So it was like I remember going on eBay and finding like the Forever 21 dupe, and I was so happy. I remember I went on holiday to like Australia. I was in Sydney, and I remember walking down the street during Mardi Gras. And all these guys going, oh my God, I love you. And I was like, yes, like this is, you know, like it's so funny, isn't it? Because I'd have to say now, that's like one of the blurriest outfits when I think about it now. But
It seemed like something I could like wear and incorporate in my life. And actually what's funny about it is a lot of times I would find pieces like that through Sex and the City, or it was like Sex and the City and like, this is so crazy, but Us Weekly, because it was weekly. So I would be like looking at what the celebrities were wearing every week. I would go spend my money and get my Us Weekly. And it's like, that's how I found like Ugg boots and everything like that before people had them where I lived. And I remember I would try to get something that looked like it, and then I would start wearing it. And I specifically remember wearing the terry cloth dress. And I remember having like guy friends who were like, why are you wearing a towel?
Because I'm like, that's not sexy.
No, and no one understood. Like it would take so long for the trend to like actually like trickle down, because it had to come from like both coasts and make its way in.
That's so true.
And I used to joke all the time, and I'd be like, you'll understand this in like a year when everybody else is wearing it.
Yeah.
And that was always true.
Yeah.
It was always true. And I was like not afraid. And it's not like the riskiest fashion, but I was not afraid to just, I was like, no, this is cool and I like it. And
if I was the only one wearing it, then it was a win. I still like it now. As soon as people start wearing a trend, I stop wearing the trend.
Yeah, I get that.
Or I'm like, I'll do it like a year or two after, oh no, I'm just not. I most often wear like vintage stuff because I just don't want to look like anybody else.
Right.
And I was always like that when I was young as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the influence of costume design comes in. Of a show like Sex and the City, so important because, I mean, clearly I'm influenced by Sex and the City heavily. It's influenced my whole career, my whole life and what I do. And I think that there's very few shows that have that same influence on costume design. What are some other ones that you would say you'd throw into that mix?
Definitely, I think an interesting one is Friends.
Yes.
Because so when I did my podcast, which was talking to costume designers, I talked to Deborah McGuire, who is a costume designer of Friends. And something really interesting that she spoke about was how she started that in the 90s, like things were so baggy. And I'm paraphrasing her words. I don't want to quote her exactly because I don't know exactly what she said, but she was talking about how you and I both know that on camera, what looks better, a really baggy outfit or something that's fitted to the body, whether it's in style at the time or not, you want something fitted to the body. It's going to look more flattering on camera. And she kind of talked about how she started to put them in tighter tops and tighter clothes.
But that's actually very true. They all wore fairly fitted, tighter.
And you could see it. If you watch the series, you could see it get like tighter, like tighter tops and tighter pants. And that definitely influenced fashion, because then fashion's like Friends was so huge, then everybody wanted to dress like them, so then it influenced the culture, and then people started wearing that in real life. And it was kind of interesting because it seemed like something she wasn't exactly happy about influencing.
Oh, really? So it wasn't like a style choice. It was more like
It was for
what
camera.
looks better on camera.
It was for camera.
Which actually we can say to people as well, because we've done this for a living, isn't it? Actually, that's so much more important to a costume designer than now. This is where, interestingly, Pat Field didn't give a fuck, kind of.
Yeah.
Because she sort of was like, I don't care.
Yeah.
But then that being said, she was dressing a gazelle. I mean, Carrie Bradshaw, Sarah Jessica Parker has her but yeah. So even when she did drape her, didn't really matter.
Right.
But I'd say that's also true of like Samantha with her amazing Kim Cattrall's beautiful shoulders. You do that gorgeous, like,
Oh gosh,
full slender body, and Cynthia is also tall and was quite sort of, so they were people who it was easy to, you couldn't go too wrong with it.
Right.
But it is crazy for people who don't realize this, that a costume designer has so much more to think about than how cool an outfit is.
100%. It's like you might start with how cool an outfit is, and then it might evolve into something else, because how does it, and another really important factor is like the collaboration process of film.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure because on Sex and the City, the costumes became such an important piece of that show that they had a little bit more free reign to do it.
I think so, because it was really the driver of the success, wasn't it?
Yeah, as
really
it went
was.
on.
I think if you really look at it as it went on, definitely not season one. Like season one, when I watched it, I'm so like, it's so sketchy. Like I'm just like. And I know it was budgets that was really affecting the costume design. Like I know from talking to Pat and talking, it was, they were just trying to get what they could get and make it look good. And they were still doing some designer stuff,
Definitely.
but it really is nothing compared to what we went into 2, and then 3 exploded, 3, 4, 5 was so iffy because of the pregnancy and things. She's like, so like, again, a costume designer's nightmare.
Yeah.
Your main star, who's previously been in the sexiest, kind of cutest clothes ever, suddenly is heavily pregnant.
Which isn't she super pregnant in the Juicy Tear collection?
She was, which is why
She's got
that
the
dress.
Birkin.
She's got the fake Birkin. And it's so crazy because that is a nightmare for a costume designer.
Yeah.
To have a pregnancy that you're hiding.
You're hiding. Yeah.
It's like Monica in Friends was pregnant. And I never understood this, and I'd love someone to answer this for me, is she's pregnant in real life in the last season of Friends.
Yeah.
But they didn't write it into the storyline. Instead, she adopts 2 children.
Yeah.
It's like, well, why did you just write it into the storyline?
I mean, that would be easier.
Isn't that mad? Like, to actually, and she looks so different because her face is puffy. And she just doesn't look like Monica's. Monica was like so, like you say, always fitted and skinny clothes, like just a gorgeous little figure. And then she's all of a sudden pregnant, being disguised as not being pregnant.
Yeah.
Same with SJP, which is why season 5 is so short for Sex and the City, because they just like logistical nightmare. But like trying to dress a star like that and try to make it work. There's some ones that work. Like there's some of the pregnancy outfits that I'm like, I don't hate, but a lot of it I can't reconcile.
Yeah.
Like the character, because it's such a departure from what we were used to seeing.
Definitely.
But yeah, going back to Friends. So I'm the hugest Friends fan. It's my favorite TV show of all time, and I loved the fashion, and it subconsciously influenced me more than I realized. But would you agree it's much more like everybody can copy that fashion? It was very wearable. Like it's like you'd see a normal person wearing those pieces on the street.
100%. And I think the way that, I mean, obviously specifically Rachel, everybody still talks about Rachel Green fashion, and I think it's such an incredible feat to have dressed a character so classically. It can still be copied today, and it looks really good.
I would kill to have her whole wardrobe.
Oh yeah, I think she's like top of the list. And it's like funny because I feel like when you look at Carrie Bradshaw, we love what she's wearing. I feel like for most people, it's aspirational.
Yeah.
Whereas Rachel Green, you could like find something in your closet. It might not be exactly the same, but you can look at. And for me, I actually really loved more of her casual looks.
Yeah, me too. I think the
like
t-shirts,
sweatshirts and t-shirts. And like
absolutely
she'll.
love.
I mean, she looks good and everything.
She's
So-
she's a clothes horse as well, but in a different kind of a way. I mean, she's quite womanly and almost a little curvy at times in the early season.
Yeah.
And then she lost all that weight when she went on Atkins. Remember the Atkins
my
era?
God.
I'm a vegetarian. I tried Atkins because of that. I mean,
my
you
God,
can't be a
everybody.
vegetarian and try Atkins.
Oh,
it just doesn't
gosh.
work. You will die.
No, yeah, you won't
But
eat
I
any
was just
food
like, but
ever.
I want to look like, I want those arms.
Yeah.
I am a person who, you know, when I see people looking so slender and gorgeous on camera, I do want to look like that.
Right.
I know it's not the most body positive thing to say.
Yeah.
But I just, as a fashion person, I just loved how the clothes looked on her.
Yeah.
I know she's just so sinewy but she still looked healthy, but she was just like super skinny.
Yeah.
But the clothes, she just rocked everything.
Yeah.
And the hair obviously was a big part of that too. And every hair iteration that she went through
Yes.
was great.
Yes.
But what's interesting about Friends is it's hard to identify. First of all, it's hard to identify the clothes because, you know, we didn't have the internet at the time. Yeah. So there wasn't like lists of she's wearing this today or that. The same with Sex in the City. It made it so like hard to even say, well, what designer is that? Like the juicy dress.
So
We knew
hard
it was
to
Juicy. It
find.
was obvious.
Yeah.
But that's one in a minute. Like everything else was like, well, what are they wearing?
That's kind of funny because I can't really remember, but I feel like there's a reason that we knew it was Juicy. It was like,
I think it was just distinctively their style, or maybe it was just so easy that it was in the press and
it
people
was
were
like, it was like literally in like Us Weekly or something like
Yeah.
that. Like where I found it and I was like, oh my gosh, now I know what it is. Which
I
is
think so
amazing.
too. But with like Friends, even now, there's not much out there about identification of the brands that we use.
Right.
But over time, you know, I've found pieces and other people do specialize in this. And what's so interesting is they were all really high fashion.
Yeah.
So a lot of what Rachel was wearing and Monica was Dolce & Gabbana,
Yeah.
Gautier.
Yeah.
They were wearing Gucci. You know, it's insane when you go back and you kind of look at it and go, well, I just thought that was a simple little summer dress they got from off the rack. And it's actually Dolce.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
And there was a lot that I thought was very interesting was when I talked to Deborah McGuire, she was saying at the beginning that she was trying so hard to make so many pieces, which I think is incredible.
Because there's a few pieces that I've never been able to identify, and I just have to believe she made them.
Though
because-
if it's from like the early seasons, yes. And she was saying, you know, I realized I couldn't do that because it was, you know, a couple script days and we have a big main cast. I can't be making clothes for everybody.
as if she was just making the clothes.
Amazing.
Incredible.
I'm pretty sure, and we would have to fact check this, but I think offhand I know that map dress. Do you know what I'm talking about?
So I own that mattress.
Okay.
Cynthia Rowley.
Okay. For some reason I thought she made that.
So the mattress is definitely Cynthia Rowley. I actually got hold of it last year, which I've been looking for forever. It's so hard to find because it's so iconic of Rachel Green. But there is something else that has a strong print that I believe that she made.
Yeah,
I think there's probably there's one that I've been looking for forever. It's my favorite Rachel look. It's the Argyle strapless dress. So it's like a strapless midi dress with a big black white Argyle print.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
She wears it to Monica's bridal shower, I think. And it is the dress that I've just wanted forever. And I assume the print is so distinctive that I'm sure I would have been able to find it through a Google search if it existed.
Yeah.
I have to believe she made that dress.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I
have to ask her. I get her on. I'll be like, right, this isn't, and then I'll be like straight on the internet. I'll be like gatekeeping before I air the episode until I find it, because I'm really obviously I've got a big obsession with Carrie Bradshaw. I own her whole closet, but I can't ever find that many pieces from Friends. I have a good selection, you know. I have pieces that I've managed to find, but yeah, it was crazy that they wore. I mean, like Phoebe's wearing Jean Paul Gaultier, like incredible dresses.
Yeah,
you don't think that at the time. You think it's vintage.
Yeah,
as you know, you think, and a lot of Phoebe's stuff was kind of vintage looking, but it actually wasn't vintage.
Yeah.
It was like more contemporary at the time
Yeah.
designers. But I mean, which one do you prefer in terms of costume design, Sex and the City or Friends?
Well, I think that Sex and the City is obviously so fun to look at, and I think like they're two totally different
I
things.
agree with that.
It's like Sex and the City is like the fantasy to me. It's like, oh my gosh, like can you imagine like having these designer pieces and Carrie and all these things? The thing about Friends that I love when I look at it is the costume design is amazing because of like the way that she dresses the characters. And something I like to talk about a lot when it comes to costume design for people who are not into it or don't really know much about it. I think there's a misconception that fashion design or that costume design is fashion.
Right. Okay. Unpack, because that's so important.
It's not, because because you're not always dressing a character to look their best.
Right.
You're dressing the character to convey the character.
Mhm.
The outfit should tell you so much about the character before the character even speaks.
Right.
And that is good costume design.
Yeah.
So if you look at a show like Friends, and if none of them ever said anything, you could figure out some things about their lives by just simply looking at them and what they're wearing. And I think that is the best part of it. And that's what makes me love costume design so much.
Storytelling.
It's storytelling through fashion, but it's not always making people high fashion or not always making people look their very best, because what does the script say? What's going on? What's going on in their life? Like, your clothing tells a story, and I think it's so true about human beings.
Yeah.
So, and it's like why I love even like people watching or looking at people on the street, what they're wearing. I always am thinking, why did they pick that today, or what's going on? You know, why did they choose that for themselves? Like, what do I learn about them by simply looking at them?
That's so interesting, because as a costume designer, when I come out the house looking like crap, I feel like crap all day because I have that internal dialogue with myself. And I'll be like, what the hell am I saying about myself? Why did I do this? Look, and I'll talk and sometimes out loud berate myself for my poor choices in coming out of the house.
Yeah.
Because exactly that, you are projecting something about yourself, and if what you're projecting isn't what you wanted to project, that makes you, well, me anyway, it makes me feel like I failed, because that's what I do for a living. You know, it's about aesthetics.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how many times I do step out of the house feeling like, what the hell did you do? Like, why did you wear this today?
Yeah.
I think it's because we spend so much time thinking about fashion and other people, and like me creating character.
Yeah.
And sometimes just being myself can be really, I think people would be like, is that Dawn Anna Williamson walking down the street? What the fuck did she come out as this morning? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, life isn't really like Carrie Bradshaw, who never went out of the house looking terrible.
Right.
You know, she always looked incredible, and she looked incredible when she was in bed. She looked incredible when she was lounging around her house. That isn't really true to life, is it? Like, I don't sleep in like the most amazing lingerie. Well, I'm on my own. Like, I don't lounge around my house in gorgeous clothes. I just don't. Like, we don't do that. It's a fantasy.
Right.
And that's where costume design goes into a different realm as well, which is where you have the permission to kind of go, well, we just want to make this character look fabulous 24/7, and create this idea that she, you know, slept in a bra every night, and she slept in like, I mean, there's one scene where she's sleeping in a t-shirt, and the t-shirt I think is like worth $4,500 or something now. It's crazy. It's like a super limited edition, and it's like, I love that, because no one knows that when they're watching it, but as the costume designer, you know.
Yeah.
You get a kick out of it. You're like, she's lying in bed and she's just wearing like the most insanely expensive.
But I also love the fancy of that. And that's why when you're talking about Friends or you're talking about Sex and the City, it's like, well, yeah, Friends is so cool because we all could maybe like put together an outfit that we saw on the show that's similar or influence from something in our closet or something we could get at the mall. But Sex and the City is just so, like, the fantasy of it. But I still think what's amazing about it is you could like take one thing from it and
You
say,
definitely
oh my
could.
God, I want to wear, like, I remember making, putting together a pair of shoes because I wanted shoes that had a big flower on them.
Okay.
I wanted to feel like Carrie. And I remember I bought these like strappy heels. I think they were like sparkly black, and I bought them at Target or something like that. I went and got fake flowers from Michael's. I like used a glue gun and dipped them in glitter and glued it onto my shoe, and everyone was like, oh my gosh, what are those? And I'm like, I made that because I wanted to be like Carrie Bradshaw.
I love that. I used to write for it too. You
Yeah.
do, yeah. Because because it makes you feel good. Then you walk down the street and all of a sudden you're imbued with this like Bradshaw-esque like.
It's hilarious. I think I wore them to like a graduation.
But I love that though. That's what I loved about Sex and the City. It gave you the permission to kind of, if you were creative and you had some ability, like so you could make stuff. And I mean, for God's sake, I still do it now at my age because I recreate Carrie Bradshaw scenes.
100%.
You will find me always rhinestoning something or corsaging something.
Yeah.
If I haven't got the thing, I'll make the thing.
Yeah.
Well, I was doing a thing last week where I was in bed with the sleep mask on.
Yeah.
And she's got the dream sleep mask. So I looked online, couldn't find one. So I just bought a plain black silk sleep mask and I rhinestoned the dream on it. Because like it's the details, isn't it?
Yeah.
And costume design is all about the details.
Yeah.
And when we think about Carrie Bradshaw, specifically her, less so the other characters, her outfits were composed of like sometimes 10 elements.
Yeah.
Now that's unusual because in costume design, we do try to keep it relatively simple because of so many things, like a microphone, dangly earrings, things that make rustling noises. You know, this is our life. You know, it's collars that look weird on camera. It's so much stuff. So we try to keep it for the most part simple. And just from like compiling the outfits and keeping them together, and then they change and they go back to it, and it's like you're trying to keep a continuity. Sex and the City was so unique in this respect. Her outfit, like I recreated, so I know that some of the outfits have so many different elements. Like let's take the outfit where she's the last scene ever of Sex and the City. She's walking down the street in the fur coat. So she's wearing, let's try and figure this out, Prada dress over a petticoat. Then she has a belt that's not the matching belt to the Prada. I own the dress, so I know it's matching. That's over the top. Then she's wearing a teal blue cardigan, which is belted with a brooch on it. Then she has the Carrie necklace. Then she has a bright pink silk scarf. Then she has the fur coat. Then she has the rhinestone phone. Then she has the red Louboutin shoes. And Manolo. She's wearing Manolos. She's carrying a Manolo shopping bag. And then she has, what am I missing? The Fendi bag. Yeah. How many? Can you like? Did you fall asleep while I was like describing?
No, it's so funny because I literally just watched your video where you recreated it and you were talking about how many pieces, and I was like, oh my God, I did. It's like, yeah, you look at it and you think that, but I didn't realize until you were talking about every single layer.
Absolutely.
I mean, nails it.
Thank you. It's actually one of my. I think it's one of my best ones because of I knew how much went into that.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it wasn't possible to find dupes for the most part. Yeah, to have the pieces. Yeah, I did wear an Amazon cardigan, like a little teal blue, because I had no idea what she was wearing. But the dress, it had to be the Prada dress. Yeah, it had to be the fur coat. Yeah, you know, it was so hard to that outfit just took a long time to pull together. Yeah, you know, and I wanted to pull it together because it's phenomenal. But so we always think about that. How mad is that? That was just one example of an outfit. How many elements the costume designer had to keep all, not Pat chose it and then the rest of them had to kind of keep that together. Like Pat wasn't probably running around going, did you get the brown shoe though? Right. Like that's the thing with costume design. Like guys, you have to know this is that on it, your actor comes off set and you've got to bag and tag every single little, and it's all got to be put together and hung on a hanger with a thing that tells you what's in that outfit, because they're going to go back to that outfit at some point and you need to make sure that it's all there.
You have to do your little write-ups.
Exactly. So it's not.
I don't think people understand all the processes that go into it. And I also think about the continuity photos and stuff from the 90s, like when people were taking Polaroids, which like cracks me up. Like, yes, I never lived in the era of taking a Polaroid and like pinning it to myself. Yeah, seeing like the pictures and like that just seems like so much. Because everything I've ever done is somebody sends me a picture. The process is they'll do a fitting, they choose an outfit after it goes through so many people, like directors and so many people have their input. And then everybody decides on what the outfit's going to be for the scene. And then you get the picture of what it's supposed to look like and how it's tucked and what earrings they're wearing and all these things. And then their costume comes to the truck, and then it gets prepped, and then it gets put in the trailer, and then the actor comes to set, and then you pull out your picture, and then you're like, do they have all the things on that they're supposed to have on? Do they have the earrings? Which I also always am thinking of Sex and the City, where there's so many elements that are needed for every outfit. So I just, they have to be so detailed and making sure every single piece is there. And then, like, sometimes the designer will come to set and they establish the costume, or we would send pictures and that's how we would establish a costume. But and then they're done with the costume, and then you have to make sure, and then even like in between scenes, and a lot of times people don't realize you film out of order. So sometimes they go back to the costume.
You bounce back to the costume and you're just like, oh my God.
And then in like the script, it's, you're filming something days later and it might be a direct cut from something you filmed a couple days ago, so it has to look exactly
dead on. Like, and have you ever been there where someone's lost the earrings?
Oh my
Someone's
gosh,
lost the glasses. I remember this being on movies and then something's gone missing.
Yeah,
and it's a big problem because the continuity is all out there.
Yeah.
And then you are blasted. We were talking last night, weren't we, about how costume designers get the blame for so much stuff.
Yeah.
Because in the end, it's like, if it visually isn't working, whose fault is it?
Yeah.
It's kind of yours. And that's why I think that, did you think that costume designers are one of the most important element on shows like Sex and the City, Friends? Do you think, for example, Carrie Bradshaw would have been as successful without Pat Field? No, I don't either.
Like, no, without a doubt, it's like another, the like costumes are another character on that show.
Yeah, for me, it was the most important part of the show. And I think, and I would argue that there's no one that could have done what Pat Field did. No one. Because that was she stamped an identity on that has never been, no one's ever done it again. Like, there's not been a TV show that I've ever watched again and gone, incredible, 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 incredible. And every single moment was just and in each episode, how many costume changes? Some of the episodes, there's like, she wears 5 or 6 different major costume changes.
And I think I if I'm right, that they would often be shooting 2 episodes at the same time, which is like,
that's a lot of costumes.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm glad you kind of agree with that. And I think a lot of people probably would agree with that. I just think that if you were to take Pat Field away from it, then I just don't think it would have been as successful.
No, it's its own thing because of that. It's visually its own thing. And there's so many iconic pieces, even just the tutu skirt,
Yeah.
Like things like that we automatically associate with that show in our heads.
Right.
And I just think it was such a phenomenon because it's like, of course you have New York and LA people, but like I was saying with Midwest, all these people in between who you never seen anything like. The costumes in my life.
And people were just horrified as well. Like, it's polarizing.
It's polarizing. Well, like, not every outfit is a hit.
No.
It's not a home run. You're not like, every single one is my favorite one I've ever seen, but I kind of am obsessed with that.
Yeah.
I don't, it's like, what is she going to wear? Am I, oh my gosh, this is my favorite. Or that's not my, or again, you could take something away from it. I like that top, but I didn't like it.
And I think that over the years, my opinion of certain outfits has changed. I hate that, and then now I love them.
Yes.
Now that I own a lot of them, and now that I recreate them, my appreciation for outfits that I didn't even like before, like for example, the rainbow dress, the vintage rainbow dress that she's wearing when she's like, I just charged tomatoes.
Yeah.
I never really bothered about that dress at all. Never really thought about it. And then I got hold of it. And I think I'm one of the only people in the world that owns that dress. I've seen versions of it from the same designer, but I've never seen, I own the original one that she's wearing. Not the screen wall one, but the same dress.
Yes.
And I put it on for the recreation and I made the belt. I had to hand make the belt because I couldn't find anything that was remotely similar. So I got a belt and then I made the buckle. And I did the recreation and I looked at it and I went, oh my God, that dress is insane.
Yeah.
Like it just pops.
Yeah.
You put it on the body and you're like, I feel I'm literally Carrie Bradshaw now.
Yeah.
So I think that that's what's really weird with Sex and the City. Even if you were like, hate that, awful, I guarantee you'll come back to it and go, you know what? I love that now.
Yeah.
And that's why it's stood the test of time.
Yeah.
Because the cycles through different trend it was never trend led. So over time, as trends come in and go,
yeah,
Sex and the City, you'll start to see eventually like fell into kind of a trend here and there. So you appreciate things as you know what I mean? As we evolve in terms of fashion and stuff, you go back but I also do love the fact that you never subscribe to any trends.
No,
I not see a trend in that at all.
I think that you're right. That's what makes it timeless, is it's not, you're not seeing like, oh my gosh, this is this year.
Which Friends was very rooted in 1990s.
Was, but you know, like
It's got
I do think the way that Rachel specifically was dressed was very classic. Yeah. And yeah, there were some pieces that were extremely 90s. And I think that there were periods of time where we were probably like, oh, that looks really 90s.
Yeah.
But, and like, it's crazy to think now that there were periods of time that you look at 90s and we were like, ugh, you know? I think that was more like early 2000s where we were like, oh, like that's so dated, you know, because it had just had, like, it was more recent.
Yeah.
And now everybody, even like the younger generation, they're obsessed with the 90s.
Yeah.
They were no part of it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's definitely, because, yeah, well, one watch Friends now, even though it is styled in like 90s, everyone wants to wear that style.
Yeah.
It's been back in fashion for years.
Yes.
So, of course, everyone's taking sort of inspiration from that. But like you say, Monica's outfits occasionally were very dated, like but Rachel's never were.
Yeah.
Like I still wear her silhouettes now. Yeah, I could find that skirt, the mini skirt with the chiffon overlay that she wears. I would kill for that skirt.
Yes.
And that's that is dated. Cause I remember we were talking about Henny's and Maritz, weren't we? And I remember having something similar from there. It was like skirts.
That makes sense.
Trousers over skirts over trousers and I don't care. Like, it's such a classic look.
Yeah.
No, you wouldn't see anyone else wearing that.
Right.
That's what I love about it.
Yes.
I want to play devil's advocate and talk about Pat Field again, because I want to talk about what happened with And Just Like That. Mm-hmm. Because we just said we didn't think that Sex and the City would have been a success without Pat. Would we then say that's what went wrong with AGLT?
Yeah, that was a tough one. The one thing that I noticed the most in that show, and actually across the board, especially when I started doing reviews of that show and people would talk about the costumes, I think something that changed so much was that I noticed that every single character was then like high fashion, right? So it made it, when you watch the original series, it's Carrie's whole thing is she is the fashion girl, right? Like she is high fashion. Her friends don't necessarily get it or participate in that. They're just like, that's Carrie. Carrie's always going to come in designer stuff and she's going to be so over the top. And then I felt like almost every character was like always high fashion all the time.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so interesting to see because it made it feel very different to me.
It was a bit contrived, wasn't it, really? Because it felt too intentional.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's let's just throw everything that we can onto this character. I know the Seema character was really popular. I could have cared less, honestly, about that character. Sorry. Unpopular opinion. I'm just like, I'm really over that. I know they tried too hard to make her be the Samantha, and you can only have Samantha. You should only have one Kim Cattrall, who just embodied something that I think she enduringly is people's favorite character in Sex and the City. Honestly, everyone I think most of my followers would say she was their favorite.
I think not having her, an interesting experience was watching And Just Like That all the way through, and then going back and watching some old Sex and the City episodes And it's like, yeah, I understand they had to find a way to move on without her if this is what they wanted to do. They wanted to do this and she didn't want to be a part of it, which I completely understand her also saying, we did that and it was good, like closed chapter.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. I love when people know when to walk.
Yeah.
Like she wanted to walk away and respect, So I don't know. I think that it was interesting to see how they dealt with her absence. But when you look back at Sex and the City, I think her strongest element is she is such incredible comic relief on that show.
Absolutely.
And then I felt like in Just Like That was missing comic relief, especially because it had a heavy-handed topics from go.
Yeah. And they tried really hard to make the characters funny, but the harder you try to make someone or something funny or look what, it just doesn't work. Like, and it felt like it was
such like quirky things that happened on that show that I was just, when I looked back on because I kind of like forget about some of it because it was just not the same to me. I'm not gonna rewatch the episode.
It was totally forgettable.
But and I was telling you last night, like, I miss it. I miss it because I was like
Trash talking it.
The hate watch was so strong because like we still wanted to know what happened with the characters, right? Because like if you're gonna give us this second version,
of course we want.
we're gonna watch it. We've already
invested.
we're invested. We already made it this far. I'm gonna watch it through all the way to the end. And then there was something that and even there were parts of it where they started being so self-aware that everybody was hate watching. Like I think they talk about it in one episode, which made me laugh a little bit.
Yeah.
And I miss the hate watch. It was such a bonding.
It was like it really was. For me and my followers, we used to do a weekly watch.
Yeah.
We do a Q&A about it, and it was just, it was rough, because everybody was just horrified. I think they were horrified by the storylines. I think the costumes were just considered just to be a little bit forgettable for the most part.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that you and I talked about is that Carrie Bradshaw became Sarah Jessica Parker.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, the thing that made Carrie so delicious was that she was really sexy and she was a little bit ghetto, with street, you know what I mean? And she just, and then she'd be classic, she just, you could never peg where she was going, with her ghetto gold jewelry and like just this amazing, gorgeous fitted dresses. And then she'd be in something like an Oscar de la Renta and, like go to the opera. And she was such a diverse character, but she was always sexy. She was always, you couldn't take your eyes off her.
Yeah.
That's part of SJP's skill as the way she carries herself in her body. But her costumes were always, to me, very sexy. Mm-hmm. Then we go to And Just Like That. We did not, I think we saw one sexy outfit, which is the turquoise blue.
Oh, I love
which I love. I own the dress. It's phenomenal. Everything else wasn't sexy. It was kind of like age appropriate. So it was Victorian, and it's like, what's happened here?
Yes.
Like, what has happened here?
Yeah, and I want her to be so cool and edgy and continue that on through the rest of time.
Well, you said to me, didn't you, something so interesting, which was like that when we were watching Sex and the City, they were like they were in their 30s and their 30s and
30s and 40s.
Mm-hmm. And it made, when we were younger, being that age, like really desirable. Like, I want to be that age. Like, how cool are they?
They made it cool. Like, I was like looking forward to my 30s and 40s because I was like, oh no, you're like, you could still be so cool. Like, look
sexy.
How cool.
You can look amazing. Yeah. You don't have to be married with children and stuff. So like it was so. Yes. It gave this whole amazing slant on 30s and 40s. We then went into this murky years where you had to be freaking 19 to be successful, and that the younger you were, it was all about. We started to get ageism after that. Like, Sex and the City was really groundbreaking, and then we just went backwards. And then all of a sudden, we're in a wilderness of like, you don't want to get old because it's TV and film is showing you that the younger is better. Yeah. So then we get to And Just Like That, and we're really hopeful, aren't we? We're like, okay, are they going to show us that 50s and 60s is super glamorous and is super amazing? No. I mean, what it showed us is that you have hip replacements, you're hobbling along and you've got sore joints and you just like a Steve.
And your husband dies.
Your husband dies, yeah. Steve is, what did you do to Steve?
Yeah, I don't even know what his story, I don't remember the storyline.
formerly like virile New York guy who was such a man's man.
Yeah.
He's like 75 years old, and he's like,
He like
can't
he couldn't hear. Was that what
and
he said?
yeah, but it's so why did she do
He
that?
couldn't hear it. He was
thing?
just like eating ice cream on the couch every night. And it was, I actually jokingly called it for a while when it first started. I would call it Sad in the City because I was like, that's what I'm watching. Because I was like, this is not fun. Where's the fun? I want the fun and excitement and aspirational. Getting older is aspirational.
Yeah. And that's what we just didn't get.
We didn't get
and we didn't get it in. I didn't get it from the costumes either, because with the exception of probably like Seema, who they definitely tried to sex up a little bit. And, you know, she did always look fabulous.
Yes.
I appreciate it. And then Lisa Todd Wexley, I liked how, I mean, she's such a beautiful woman.
She is so stunning. Oh my gosh. I actually thought sometimes though, I was like, give her less because the face card is amazing.
I 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
Way too much.
We don't need to compete with her face.
Yeah, way too much geometric prints and big chunky.
She's so gorgeous.
She doesn't need that.
No.
You could have done pared down with her so beautifully.
Yes.
She's just stunning. I think that was the thing. There was so much thrown into the costumes on the show.
Yeah.
To try to be like, hey, we're back.
Yeah.
It's all about the costumes. And then it fell really flat because I guess people were like, what are they wearing? But here's the difference. It wasn't accessible at all.
No.
It was like super expensive.
Super
pieces.
expensive.
So if you went to buy it, you'd have to have a couple of $1,000 to get one of Carrie's outfits. Like the Simone Rocha. I did love the Simone Rocha, the nude sheer. That was my favorite.
That was one of my favorites. And I'm going to totally forget, which it's hilarious that I forget what it was. But there's that dress that she's wearing and it's got like an overlay sheer corset. And then it's got little like gems on it, like rhinestones, and it went over a dress. And actually, when I first saw it,
wait, that wasn't the Simone Rocha one though, no?
No, I don't think so. Because you're talking about the floral one with that had it was almost like a trench coat that had flowers.
Yes, they did.
That was gorgeous. But she's wearing, it's like the one episode it's like after Aiden, she's like going to meet them for dinner, and I was like, oh my god, it's finally Carrie Bradshaw. She's going to meet the girls.
Oh my god, I own the dress.
Oh my god. But you know
the cardigan?
With a cardigan, and then it's got like that sheer paneling that goes over it.
It is I think so what they did was the dress is vintage Dolce & Gabbana.
Yes.
I own it. I haven't recreated it yet. I need to do it. But the corset they put over the top is Simone Rocha.
Yes, it is.
So
yes, you're right.
Yeah, that's where I was like, hang on a minute, we've got the two things.
Funny because I went down a whole rabbit hole about this at the time that they aired it because it was my favorite thing I saw on her the entire series. And when I saw it, I was in the process of looking for wedding dresses, and that was the first time I saw something that I was like, oh my god, that would be an amazing wedding dress. Like I wanted I was like, even if I can't get the dress, if I got a dress that's similar and I was able to put that sheer corset, of course.
It was sold out. I get it. I've been trying to get it because
it was sold out like.
And how crazy I was able to find the dress from 2003.
Yes.
Like I've got the dress.
Yeah. And I went immediately the episode was over. I seriously went to the costumes page and I was like, hi, please tell me everything. And that's actually the amazing part that we can do that now.
Yeah.
And I was like, can you please tell me all the details of what she's wearing? And they immediately told me all the
What about the cardigan? Did they say that? Because was it just like some old man's cardigan that they just threw on? Because
I don't remember. But I think they told me, but I was like so in love with that dress.
I just can't believe how many people messaged me to ask about the cardigan.
Yeah.
Because people love cardigans.
Well, and I loved the idea. I loved the way it was.
I loved the idea too. That idea of this super like glam dress.
I don't know. It's so funny because I was thinking about this last night, but I couldn't remember. I feel like the Met Gala where Kim wore.
It's my favorite Met Gala
with like the
flagella.
Yes. So was that had to have been after?
No, that would have been.
Or was it before?
It was around the same sort of time, wasn't it?
It was around the same time because I feel like...
I think Kim was before, just about.
I think Kim was before.
I think that was 4 years ago at the Met Gala, I want to say. I did my Met Gala podcast and we talked about it being my favourite Met Gala look because I just was obsessed with the way she had the cardigan.
Loved the cardigan and people hated it.
I love it.
I love a
It's
controversial
very
piece.
similar. Very similar.
But when I saw, I think you're right. So I think when I saw it on Carrie, I was like, oh my God, it reminds me of the Kim Kardashian Met Gala
it
dress.
is, yeah.
And it was like the ripped up, like dusty cardigan laying off your shoulders. Having
It's the oiled wool. It looks like so. It's just
Yeah.
it's heaven. I tried to get that from Margiela, but it was only made for her.
Yeah.
It's custom, and I'm like, I want that bold. I love it. It's just I would do that look.
It was interesting.
And I think that it's what made that outfit of Carrie's interesting too. And I agree with you. That was one of my like maybe 5 that I would say that I really love in
Obsessed with that.
show.
God, it was so gorgeous.
Yeah, beautiful. I need to recreate that. You've reminded me. I'll try and find that Simone Rocha again because I'm thinking now after it's died down, I bet you it's on retail somewhere.
And also, I mean, like, I got to a point where I was so obsessed with that I started being like, can I make this? Can I find something similar? And yeah, custom made. I totally went a different route. But that was the beginning of my inspiration. I was like, that is something I would wear. I would wear that as a wedding dress because I had such a hard time finding a wedding dress that made sense because I was not into anything.
Yeah. It's funny because that didn't even look like she was wearing 2 separate pieces. It was one piece. It was incredibly well done.
I was shocked when they told me what it was, and then I looked at it and I was like, wow, that's so brilliant. Even as like some sort of inspiration in the future, how can I incorporate that?
And that's what I loved. Because those are the elements where I saw the Molly Rogers kind of magic, you know, but then I didn't see it in all the costumes. And I don't know, I wouldn't even, as a costume designer, I wouldn't even necessarily say that was all down to her because I think there was a heavy influence from the actors being producers.
Sure.
And I would say Sarah Jessica Parker had a heavy influence on choosing the costumes for with Harry Brown.
I mean, you're executive producer. I'm sure you're looking at every single
and
thing.
she was very collaborative with Pat.
Yes,
in like the original series. I know they were heavily, and I know that Pat loved collaborating.
Yeah.
You know, she loved how collaborative she was and how involved. But I think that when you become an exec producer and you're really in charge of a lot of stuff, I think sometimes that actually is too much because I think it's like be an actor and focus on the acting more so than everything.
Yeah.
I mean, because then we start to see so many different influences. The costume design aren't just like that. And I just think it wasn't very cohesive. And like Cynthia Nixon, questionable storylines that they gave her.
Yeah.
You know, like really, really tough. And she became like the comedy character. And so did Charlotte. I mean, and you know, and Charlotte, they did keep her very true to her original character, that sort of 1950s silhouettes. And
no, I
know,
know she was great, and I felt like she was very much that is who she would evolve to be. I do want to say I also think like what hard shoes to fill to like step in and be the person that has to continue on costumes for the most loved costume show.
Well, it's not an easy thing to do.
No, I actually think it's like honestly brave at the end of the day. Like, yeah, you're saying, no, I'm gonna do this because, you know, I worked on the original. And also you have to say like who else knows more than somebody who was a part of
which is why they kept Danny Santiago as well. So Danny and Molly did it together.
Definitely.
And of course we have to remember that as it was Pat's aesthetic vision, no doubt, but the team is very important and very collaborative. So Molly and Danny would be heavily involved 100% so much that they probably didn't get as much credit for. So it's hard. And I do think that, and just like that, got a lot of criticism. I definitely criticized it, and it was disappointing in elements. I mean, let's face it, it wasn't bad, like the costume design at all. They there was incredible costume. It just, I think, the storylines were very problematic for the costume design team because you're telling a totally different story.
Yeah.
And they didn't do a bad job. They did great, and they had access to a lot more stuff.
Well, and then that's what I was thinking too, is like, oh my God, the access at that point, everybody's throwing clothes at you. Yeah. Anything you want is yours.
Which means you don't have to work as hard, and sometimes you've got so much choice.
But it's like, you're not going to be like, no, I don't want this. And I don't want all these designers that I want. It's like, you're going to say like, give me all the things and let's put something together.
Right.
And I think,
but like in Sex and the City, to your point, you know, they'd get like one amazing piece, like a Fendi baguette, and then they could make the outfit around that. But then in Just Like That, it was like, well, here's every piece of the runway. Yeah,
and
didn't have it. Let's just throw it all on there.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, but then we've missed that slight fusion of vintage, high street designer that Carrie Bradshaw would wear.
Yeah.
You know, like when, for a classic case in point, she's walking on the street wearing a Vivienne Westwood bustle skirt from 1988, the green one with the bunny tail at the back.
Yes.
And she's wearing blue marine shoes. So we've got an incredible piece of archive fashion. We've got, at the time, a contemporary designer piece. And she's wearing a J. Crew shirt.
Yeah.
The white shirt.
Yeah.
And, you know, people ask me all the time, where can I get that shirt? It's where the genius comes in, is that you've got to have a balance. You have to mix in accessible, affordable pieces, vintage pieces with the designer stuff. It can't just be a designer threw up on you. You know, it just, it's not as interesting.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why there were moments like the we've talked about where they put something over the top of a vintage dress and then a one, like a cardigan. That was a great outfit because it was made up of 3 different eras and 3 different ideas.
Yeah.
And it's thrown together, and we love that aesthetically.
Yeah.
Because that's what you and I are interested in. I'm just less interested in seeing someone wearing look 14 from the, you know, Louis Vuitton runway show, you know, or whatever it might be. I don't want to just see a head to toe runway look.
I always think that's so interesting too, even like when it comes to styling, like when you see red carpet styling, like I love seeing the runway photo versus what ends up on the celebrity on the red carpet, and see what changes between the runway. And like sometimes it's like boom, but like they just literally put on everything that was on the runway. And then sometimes they completely make it their own thing. And and there's different reasons for doing what they do. I mean, also it's so different now because I feel like so many celebrities are sponsored by a designer.
Kim Kardashian, Balenciaga, anyone? Jesus. There are other brands out there.
But then they end up wearing like more of the runway look than like something interesting and integrating different pieces. But it's because they represent the brand.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay, so like to wrap, okay, we could talk about this for ages.
I know.
I think we might need to do a part 2.
Yeah.
But to wrap up, I know you mentioned that Clueless was one of your like big influences.
Yes.
Do you feel like that had a big impact on trends and fashion?
100%.
Would you say that's one of your favorite costume designed movies?
Yes, definitely, because I believe that Mona May created her own world with that. And by doing that, she brought it into the real world. And I think that's so nice. I thought you definitely see it she influenced runways after that, which I think is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And that movie, I would say, was my biggest influence because I was so young when I first watched it.
Yeah, me too. I have to say, I haven't watched it recently, but I don't remember it as much now.
That movie's so crazy because I watched it so many times that still to this day, you could press play on that movie and I could recite every single.
Oh, you love that movie.
Loved it. And really, again, it was like Sex and the City because actually what's funny is watching that movie back now, it's not like it's so inappropriate, but there's definitely jokes that were way over my head when I was watching it. I was watching it when I was like 10, 11 years old. And that was one of those things where I feel like my mom was kind of like, ooh, I don't know about you watching this. And I would be like, what are you talking about? I'm watching it because I love the clothes.
Yeah, I won't think of any other than the clothes.
Yes, and I wanted to be Cher so bad. And like I had my little feather pen. Like it was like accessibility. What can I get in my world that's like hers, which wasn't much in 5th grade. But I even remember buying like a white t-shirt and a black spaghetti strap tank top and putting it, which was like her gym outfit.
Oh yeah.
But, like I wore that and like I went to school like you couldn't tell me shit because I was wearing a tank top over a t-shirt, but like that made me feel like her. I wanted to be like
that's
her.
the power of clothes.
The power of
design,
clothes.
which is so important.
Yeah.
I think we should do Clueless and it's totally separate.
All right,
I think it deserves like a whole.
Did you know that they're rebooting it? They just talked.
They
just talked about it.
I think
it's a series.
I'm nervous about reboots because of well, look what happened with And Just Like That.
Yeah.
The Carrie Diaries, it just doesn't.
I never
I never even watched it either. Right, last few questions. Let's just do Rachel Green or Carrie Bradshaw.
In terms of what?
Fashion, costume design, clothes,
Um,
enduring aesthetic.
I have to just say again, I have to say like Rachel Green accessible, like would like love her for her accessibility and her classicness, but love Carrie Bradshaw for the fantasy.
That's like Sophie's choice for me. I couldn't answer.
No,
I just
I
want both. Yeah, I want both. Like, of course, Carrie. And if I had to choose, I'd pick Carrie. But
Yeah,
I'm also
yeah.
like forever in love with Rachel Green.
Yes.
Which show aged the best? Sex and the City or Friends in terms of fashion? I think we've already kind of covered that, to be fair. But
Gosh, it's the same thing.
it's the same thing, isn't
It's
it?
the same thing.
It's like Friends is classic.
Classic.
And I think always will be classic.
Yes.
Sex and the City is forever aspirational.
Yes.
Because, I mean, I can tell you for a fact is that people are still as obsessed with getting hold of those clothes
Yes.
more than they were at the time.
Definitely.
It is now a cat fight trying to get pieces from the show because people are just, they want it so bad.
Yeah.
And it's like, I miss the years when nobody
No one was
knew.
doing
Like,
that.
I guess just scooping up all that, the Donna Karen,
Yeah.
the amazing stuff. Which costume designer deserves more credit than the actors?
It's the same answer. I mean, like I just like I said, costumes. I think on Sex and the City were another character on the show.
Yeah, me too.
And I think Patricia Fields should be a household name.
Yeah,
for what she
I
did
think
for
that,
that
yeah,
show.
I agree. I would probably say Patricia Fields.
Yeah.
That would be my answer.
Yeah.
Of course. And then last question: if you could raid one TV show wardrobe, any TV show, and keep everything to yourself, which one would you raid?
Oh gosh, this is a hard question.
I know.
I mean, you would raise Sex and the City.
I already did. I did. It's all in my house.
No, you already did. What? Oh, that's a hard one.
I mean, because there's so many iconic shows, and we wouldn't even touch on things like Gossip Girl, and it was a little bit later on. But
Wait, I started thinking about like Gossip Girl, which like they had great costumes on that show. But it's like, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, like Carrie is like the ultimate, like she had just the most fun pieces.
I think so. And even though I'd love to raid Rachel Green's wardrobe just to know what the pieces were, I wouldn't be as excited to own her whole wardrobe as I would to own everything from Carrie Bradshaw.
Right, because it's just fun and interesting and different, and they're mix and matching.
And it's also like archival fashion.
Yeah.
Some of it was one-offs. I mean, like, could you imagine owning it wasn't a one-off, but the newspaper dress, the Galliano? Could you imagine owning the bustle skirt, the Vivienne Westwood? These are the Versace Mille-Feuille, these are things that, you can only dream of. So I think it has to be Sex and the City wardrobe. And you'd also be a billionaire because if you own the whole lot of that, you could sell it and make a bloody fortune.
Definitely, like investment wise.
It's on auction. That would be amazing.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, that was so like it went so quickly. I feel like we could definitely have gone over so much more. But I really loved having you on. It's like talking to myself. It's so interesting because we've never met in person.
Yeah.
We've always talked. We talked online, but we've never met in person. And then you're saying stuff. I'm just like, yep.
Yeah.
It's like my brain saying it.
Yeah.
I think it's a costume designer perspective. And just an archival fashion fan. We love that era.
Yes.
So I think this is so good. And I really hope you guys enjoyed hearing about the inner workings of costume design, which is so much harder than anyone imagined.
The hardest working department. And that's, I also just want to say, like, when I think about Sex and the City, I just think there are times when I watch it and I'm like, that department worked so hard. And I was thinking about that during all of And Just Like That. They are working so
Working around stuff, yeah.
And applause to the costume department.
I mean, applause to all of our favourite TV shows from that era. The costume designers absolutely smashed it. The designers gave me a lifelong obsession.
But I think about, like you said, tracking those pieces. It's probably always having comfort shoes because everyone's in heels, swapping out shoes nonstop. The work is unbelievable. And
Absolutely.
the people behind the scenes are never getting enough credit for what they do.
Completely agree. So I'm really glad we were able to talk about it and highlight that a little bit. And I would love for you, next time you come back to New York, come back on the podcast to do it again.
Yeah.
Because I think there's so much more that we can dig into.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, well, thank you so much. It was a little pleasure. And guys, I'll be back with you again next week for another episode of the Icons Edit.